Hello, this is me. My name's Terry. I'm 63 years old. I've been interested in music since a very early age, as most people have. In fact, I found the album Help by the Beatles in a friend of my mum's bin when I was 10 years old, and that started me on my fantastic musical journey. I took up playing guitar in my teens thanks to my mate Dave Whitehead, and then got involved in various bands over the years, so I feel like I've got a good grounding in music. As I approached retirement, one of the things I wanted to do was build myself a recording studio. To do this, I needed to knock down my old woodshed, which was virtually falling down, or so I thought, and in the place where it sits I wanted to construct a new studio building, and then fill it with all sorts of electronic and musical goodies so that I could actually use it as a studio to record some tracks, old and new. So this is part one of a number of videos which covers my journey from an old woodshed to a recording studio, and then the music and the songs, etc. that I have produced from that studio, which I'm sure will have you all enthralled. Having done my research into these type of buildings, I settled on following a YouTube tutorial by a guy called Ali Dimmock. This was very helpful and his videos are absolutely first class. So this is what I used as reference for my project. Having researched Ali's videos extensively and really absorbed what was required, I started to work on some of my own plans. I used a software package called Bluebeam, which is not cheap, but it's very good. Could probably get away with something similar or maybe something free. But I used Bluebeam and set about making some very extensive plans, giving me good reference for the project. As you can see from the plans on screen now, they are quite detailed and did come in very handy when I approached each part of the build, which I'll come on to in a bit. The first thing we had to do was dismantle and demolish the old shed, clear the site and prepare for its new studio base to go down. So with a little help from my lovely wife Norma, we embarked on what ended up being a bigger job than we had envisaged. Quite physically stressful, but satisfying also. So you can see from the pictures that it was a bit of a mess and there was a lot of work involved. My good mate Dave got in on the act and brought down his trailer to help us. We took a lot of the waste material for the local village bonfire, which was handy. The next thing we had to do was call in another Dave, another mate of mine who lives just across the valley. This Dave is a builder by trade and a very knowledgeable guy. Following a chat in the local pub, he offered to come and help me with the base because I've never really done one before, and it's pretty straightforward, but you've got to know what you're doing, and Dave pointed me in the right direction and did quite a bit of the work himself, to be fair to him. And between us we did a great job, so it's handy having some mates in the know. The base was made of super dense concrete blocks and laid in such a way that they provided a flat, level platform that was raised off the ground to keep everything away from the rain splash and damp, by keeping the whole structure off the ground. I also used DPC strips to prevent splashback. Dave 1 came back to give a hand as well, helping with all the shale. Next up was a timber delivery from Atkinson's and Kendall. I dealt with a guy called Neil who was absolutely brilliant and did give me a good deal on the carcass timber. I was really chuffed with what I got. The quality of the wood and the price was brilliant. I'm really keen to get the business, and they were most helpful as well. So we received the chosen timber, which is the majority of the framework, the roof and the base. A lot of the other wood, noggins etc. came from a unit which Dave 1 owns, which I'll come on to shortly, because next I have to go down and get that and drag it all out with Dave's help. So once all the wood was delivered, we could use that then to start making the base, which consisted of 4 2x2 metre sections, all screwed and bolted together, which would make it strong enough to form the single base. So you can see here how we pulled these together, aligned the bases in 4 2x2 sections to give us a 4x4 metre base. Then all we needed to do was just square it all up, screw it and bolt it together. I fitted chicken mesh on the bottom of all the base sections to help with supporting the installation. Then it was just a case of filling in all the gaps with the installation, which was cut to size. This installation has actually come from Dave's unit in Ulverston, which is a bit of a cost saver for us and greatly appreciated. Once insulated, we sprayed all the gaps with expanding foam. For this I purchased a foam gun, which was a good call. And then we had to cover it all with a waterproof membrane, as per Ali Dimmick's advice. This is the green sheeting which gave us more protection from water seepage. Once that was done, we just needed to cover it all with plywood boarding, which gave us the main flat structure of the floor. During this time we managed to find a window to use for the main window, which we saw on eBay. Now I've been looking for a window for quite some time, but fortunately I could build the window to the size of the building and not the other way around. Therefore, as long as the size was in the ballpark, I could build the window into the building, thereby saving money. So I just waited till something came up at a good price, which is about the right size, and worked the frame around that. Next up, I'll show footage of the Ulverston unit rip out. Dave's got a place down in Ulverston that he was leasing out to a small brewery company that didn't manage to last the course. So we had a big cold storeroom to dismantle so we could get his unit re-let out to somebody who didn't require a cold storage room. So basically the deal was, if I went down and gave him a hand, I could have all the materials to use on my project, which was a mutually beneficial scenario. Also, another mate, Dave, believe it or not, came down to help out and suggested that I could store all the materials in his secure barns, which he had on his land, and he kindly offered for me to store it there while I needed to call it off, per part of the project as it was due. So that worked in really handy, as you can see here. Now these lovely old barns were perfect for storing the materials from Dave's unit, all nice and dry, ready for utilisation, which was really helpful. And again, I was very appreciative to Dave. Next up, construction of the walls. One thing I would recommend before taking on a project like this is investing in some really good quality tools. On the advice of my brother-in-law Keith, I invested in a set of Milwaukee power tools, an impact driver, hammer drill, circular saw, jigsaw, multi-tool, angle grinder, etc. I also purchased an iron hole chop saw, which is also a massive help. So the idea behind the walls was to construct them all on top of the base and make them up one by one so that they were all ready in position to erect when the time came. This all worked out quite well. It's quite a nice little height to work at. As you can see, The Milwaukee kit is basically making a difficult job quite easy. Nice powerful hand tools. When you're making these walls, as with the base, you've got to consider the positioning of the plywood and the OSBs that will be fitted to the frame. So you have to measure the walls to accommodate those boards, so they actually screw in on the ends of each board into a piece of timber to obviously strengthen the construction. So as you can see here, I'm screwing all the stanchions in ready to take the various parts of the frame, and some with just straightforward walls. One has got a window built in, and two of them have got doors built in. So it's a case of just measuring it all up and constructing. The biggest problem we came across was this problem with the water. Up in the lakes it's quite wet, clues in the name, and we initially started off with major problems. So we tried a few methods to keep things dry. We had to construct our own little waterproof sheets because we couldn't buy them big enough, and eventually we came upon this almost tilted bivouac scenario where the rain drains off towards the ground back to front, which seemed to work okay. Next up, it was getting the neighbours around to help with the construction. So we've asked 2 of the 3 Daves that you've already met, Dave 3 was working, to come down and help along with 2 more great local friends, Derek and Steve, who all came to help construct it all. Norma was there providing tea and I think bacon butties, however it may well have been oatcakes as we're from Stoke originally.
Yeah.
So the guys came round and helped me to hold everything in place while we secured it using some angled props, and once they were screwed to each other and the whole thing started to become very stable. I still kept the props in place while we worked on the main frame of the building, and I left them in place until we started working on the roof, which is the next part of the project. But just getting those walls in place and then getting the thing waterproofed again was a priority. It's a constant problem in the lakes, just keeping things bloody dry basically. So the roof was a case of these 2x5s on edge. First of all I had to get them up there, laying them flat, and then put a line across the front just to make sure that they were all the same length, and then fitted them on edge with rafter brackets, which then kept them nice and secure and gave it the strength it needed. So you can see I'm now starting to turn them over from flat to edge, one by one, and secure them with the rafter brackets. Again, a difficult, time-consuming job, having to work our way across the roof using a piece of OSB to actually work from, stand on and sit on. But it's all starting to come together nicely. Once the rafters were all fitted, I placed the plywood sheets on top and covered with a large tarp so that we could keep it waterproof while we continued working on it. We had a little bit of good weather around this time, so it worked out quite well. Dave came down yet again to help me. He's a lot lighter than me, as you can see, so it was quite handy for him on the roof, and he was a big help as he always is. And between us we made short shrift of the roof. Once the main structure of the roof was completed with the wooden fascia, then it was a case of doing it all, the filling out with the noggins, which had to be cut to length and then fitted, which is a bit awkward. Then we had to keep it all dry again, which you can see is a bit of a pain, but we managed to do it. A bit of water did get in, however. We always had planned for that, and I was expecting it, so the floor took the brunt of it, and there was always a plan to put another floor in place, which I'll discuss later on. Anyway, once we got the roof in place, it was a case of getting my nephew Stephen down. He's an extremely handy guy. He came up and helped us to put the rubber roof on. He's a fit young lad and found it a bit easier than I would have done, and I would have probably gone through the roof. And once that was done, we could fit the fascias and the soffits to hold the rubber in place, although the glue would also help it hold it in place. As you can see there, it just sort of flips over the edges. It's glued on top, and then the fascias hold it in place around the sides. I used a bit of batten temporarily, but then the fascias went on after the batten came off. And as you can see there now, it's all a quite well sealed unit. So that was the roof done, and I got the roofing materials from a company in Blackburn called Gap, who were very helpful, and the young lady Sarah I spoke to there was very knowledgeable and guided me in the right direction. December 2023, as you can see, was quite cold. I had to wait a bit for the snow to clear and everything to dry off. However, using the tarps, we did manage to keep the snow out of the building generally. A little bit came in, but no big deal. So the next thing to move on to was the external shell. My good friend Alan and another friend who happens to be Alan's son-in-law called Andy came up from Wales to help us. They stayed for a weekend and helped us with the main shell. And once we managed to get all the OSB in place, there was a case of getting all the Tyvek on. Now Tyvek is a building wrap which basically keeps water out, and once that's fitted, the place is waterproof, and that was the big milestone for us in this project. So as you can see now, apart from the holes for the windows and doors, it's waterproof. I just needed to cover those gaps, which is a lot easier than covering the whole structure. The roof has already proved itself as being waterproof, and it's all starting to come together quite nicely. So the next video will be from this position onwards. This will show how to actually fit out from this position of a complete structure, a bare structure but complete, and I'll be coming on to that one shortly. Hopefully you'll stick around and watch that one, but for now, thank you for watching the video. If you want to subscribe and even give us a comment, then I'm quite happy to take note or respond to any that I can. So it's bye for now, cheers and thank you.